Yes.
Hello, and a very warm welcome to our panels and our audience. Today, we are here to talk about the challenges that exist in the world today because of the crisis situation that we are in. And we are here to discuss some aspects around that. How does it impact the HR world overall? Before that, I would really like to introduce our esteemed panelists here. We have Mr. Bhavesh Chandaria. He is the Managing Director and Business Head of Safintra Rwanda Limited. Previously, he was a Group Head Training and Development with Safal Group and was Board of Director for the group companies. He is one of the few business leaders with global experience and one of the few cherished professionals to move from HR to a business CEO role. He has been certified in GPHR, SPHRI, SCP, among many other accolades. Bhavesh is joining us today from Kigali, Rwanda. Welcome, Bhavesh.
Glad to be
And
here. Good morning, everybody. Good morning in Africa and good afternoon in India.
our next panel is Aparna Sharma. She's an accomplished HR practitioner, a best-selling author, and a motivational speaker. She has done her post-graduation in personal management and industrial relations from Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Mumbai. Aparna, in her diverse roles, has successfully been a learning partner, mentor, and coach to leaders and organizations to build competencies and nimbleness for achieving purposeful performance. She has recently been awarded doctorate in HR from California Public University, USA. Her research is very contemporary and very interesting topic, Future of Work and Workplace 2025. Welcome, Aparna.
Thank you.
Our next HR panel is Mr. Vijay Waidande. He is the founder, director, and CEO of Lay HR Solutions Private Limited. Vijay is an alumni of SIBM batch of 1986 and has been a successful entrepreneur for over 18 years. Vijay has worked with corporates for 17 years and has been a coach to CEOs of small and medium businesses. He leads a growing HR consulting company focused on better alignment of people practices. He is focused on achieving business growth through effective execution of client consulting mandates. Welcome, Vijay.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I am Arpita Daruka, your host for this session. I have close to over 17 years of international HR experience. And today I will be moderating this session. Before we go ahead to the session, I would like to request our audience, if you have any questions, please put it in the comment section in your live video, and we can take it up towards the end of our session. Thank you. So, dear panel, we know that this is a situation that the whole world is talking about, and in this, the biggest challenge that comes up is obviously about our careers, about the work, about all that we are trying to think, trying to visualize, or rather getting anxious and panicked about. The first thing that I would like to talk about is how should people prepare themselves during the crisis like this to be ready for future employment? Vijay, sir, can you take this, please?
Yeah. Uh, this crisis pandemic has just started, but industry is going through a recession for last couple of years. It is important for all people who are in industry to generally we have PIP programs, in the industry. So they have to do self PIP. It is very important that all of them they have to realign themselves to the jobs which they are currently into. At the same time, they have to look at their skills, which are the other things they can do. And multi-skilling, I think, is very, very important for individual at the same time with the companies. Companies will be under a lot of financial stress, and it is individuals and HR who have to work together and ensure that they manage this stress in difficult times. So multi-skilling, self-PIP, these are the things they have to proactively talk to the HR and top management what all best they can do and add value. Yeah.
Aparna, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so everything that Vijay has said is, of course, very valuable and valid. But I look at the current times. Uh, I know it's crisis, but I would say we've heard of BC and AD. Before Christ and Anno Domini, right? I think I would reclassify this as BC and AC, before Corona and after Corona, at the times that we are in. Okay, so before Corona, there was life which was going a certain way, whether it's corporate or self-employed people, or professionals in every walk of life. What has happened, and even before talking about how to become future employed, I want to talk about two things, which is uh, what should anybody do, okay, anybody do in a crisis kind of a situation. So there are two things which come to mind. The first thing is that one needs to do the right thing. Okay, point number one is one needs to do the right thing. And what is that right thing? Okay, the right thing is to surround oneself with like-minded people, like-minded professionals, with people you can share and toss ideas about how to look at self development, so that you are not static. Once the crisis is over, how is it that you can be back on the springboard and make sure that your skill set and talent are still absolutely top of the mark, and you continue to remain employable. So the first thing is doing the right thing, which is surrounding yourself with such people. And the second is a very important sort of a thought within oneself, and this is more about self motivation. Is whatever said and done, I will do the best I can do. It's very easy to get frustrated, to get demotivated. I receive so many calls and messages and CVs, especially in these times, from people around the world saying, we've been laid off, I'm trying to look for a job, and so on. So all you see around you is a lot of gloom and doom all the time, and hence this resolve, or inner strength to say that I will do the best I can do in this situation. And what is it that is in our control, what is it that as employees, as professionals, we can do is we can continuously invest in ongoing self development. And going to what Mr. Vijay said is about multi skilling and ensuring that there is a self drive that you have towards development. Okay, to me, this time is very easy to lose if you do not focus on making sure that you do the right thing and you do the best of your ability. So this is a crisis. Everyone needs to convert this into an opportunity to make sure that reflect time, pause, reflect your manager leadership to say, can we have conversations in terms of what would be some of the things that will help me, go to that path. So charting out, I think it
I think we are losing Aparna's internet connection here. Um, by the time she comes back, Bhavesh sir, can we have your thoughts on this, please?
audible.
Arpita, thank you for calling me Bhavesh.
I think she is back. I'm sorry for the confusion.
Okay, am I still audible?
Yeah, you are audible now,
Yeah.
Aparna.
As an opportunity to ensure we reflect and then chart out the way from here on. All right. So this was a longish answer to a short question that you posed, Arpita.
Okay, perfect. That was a nice thought, Aparna. Bhavesh, can we have your thoughts on this, please?
Future is not going to be what it used to be.
Yeah.
And what to do when we don't know what to do. The learning agility is what is a very important pertinent point now. Basically, we need to have surviving and thriving agility. The landscape has changed. Nobody knows. We are grappling with what this monster is about. And like they say, the circle of concern and circle of influence. What people need to do now is divided in two parts, as I say. One is basically we need to have a personal and enduring trait which is industry agnostic, regardless of function or industry where you work in. If you have not learned a couple of skills every week in this lockdown, you will be redundant. So a self-reflection people need to do, professionals who want to thrive, is what are you learning? If you're not unlearn 4 or 5 things of the past, you are redundant. So the issue is, regardless of your industry or function, are you unlearning? Are you agile learning? Are you reflecting and getting your basics right? What's going to thrive in the next gen, the after Corona era, is do you have execution ability? Can you ride VUCA? Can you ride and thrive on chaos? Do you communicate with barriers that we have now? Can you make method out of madness? Now, these are all personal resilience, survival skills that you need to install and you need to learn. So on one front, personal development based on where you self-assess yourself and where others have assessed you, you need to build those things that will allow you to bounce back. It's not about how you fall. It's all about how you bounce back when the fall is over. So
Correct.
these skills will last with you in your personal life or in any of the function or industry that you work in. Having said that, on the second part, in the new context of the industry landscape would change, your function would have a new avatar. So we don't know how the new thing would work out. This is where I follow largely the Google and the Laszlo Bock model. You need to have and I improvise it. You need to have a double-legged team. That means you need to have two functional uh, uh, domain expertise in not only one. Don't rely on one. One might be redundant. So you need to have one which could be current, have a sharper edge on that, but another one which could be a futuristic. So you need to have a second leg to stand on. Um, Learn from nature. So you need to develop certain skills which would be futuristic. That is required. Secondly, you need to have a lot of width. You may work traverse across to a different function, but your function would be subsumed and going into another larger function or a related function. In your value chain, your elbow, the supplier and the customer value chain, you need to be familiar with. So how do you have a wider base of skill, and not only inch wide and mile deep into these two legs, and a mile wide and inch deep into a very many related function and related industry knowledge. So your time to peak productivity when you move into new canvas is quick. So it is like Mission Impossible teams, the work swarms. You will meet, you will deliver your part, and you go away. You don't even have time to really tango and do a lot of familiarization with your team members because you'll be virtual. Social distancing and virtual intimacy is the way the work things will work. So how do we thrive in that context is very important. It's fuzzy logic right now, but you need to have ability to traverse quickly. Having said that, what I say is COVID come out very innovatively and deliver. COVID. So be ready. Be confident. Please understand, in a jungle, when you're facing a cheetah, and you are two people, you don't have to outrun the cheetah. You have to outrun your competitor, the other person. So if you have two people facing a cheetah, you don't have to outrun the cheetah. So the tiger, the COVID is the cheetah here in my analogy. So what you are doing is you have to outperform others. All right, all of us are in the same boat. So the survivor and the thrivers are the one who are quickly bouncing back, who are quickly unlearning and learning new ways at the skill domain and at the conceptual level. I'm done.
Yeah. That was some real brilliant piece of advice from all of you. Thank you so much. I'm sure people are listening to it, and I think this is really a good insight on how we should prepare ourselves going forward. Our next thing would be, we all know companies are right now going through a lot of crisis situation as well. They might, and they're, I'm sure, currently seeing a dip in their revenue and profit levels. And we have, as HR, usually seen being HR, people being our biggest resources, or rather taking away the maximum, asset chunk in terms of like humans, and they try to arrest people cost first. How companies should value people at this time? Aparna, can you please take this question first?
Sure. So, I think all of us are reading a lot of news about airlines sort of, talking about cuts in terms of salary cuts, etc. The usual question, people are asking each other is that, are there any layoffs in your company? What is the plan? What about promotions, increments? Uh, I think there is no general or a broad brush approach that organizations can afford to have in current times. What is important and imperative is that every organization has to understand their business cycle, their customers, their environment, and look at the balance sheet. And when I say the balance sheet, humans or resources, people are also resources on the asset side. Depends on what the philosophy of the organization is. Very quickly assets can become liabilities, but the point is, uh, organizations also need to be foresighted in saying that everybody is saying this too shall pass. So this is like any other crisis that we've been hit with. This will also pass. So in future as well, we will need people as critical resources to perform the functions that one has. Now we do not know how economies will evolve. There are a lot of variables which are unknown in this current state. Like you said, it's easiest to tick off and make people from asset side to bring them to the liability side and say that cut cost and wrap up whatever is needed. But I think what kind of a employer or the way you handle people in these times is what will stay with people and the market sentiment for a long period of time. So if you're thinking for today and saying how do we remain in business, that is one approach. But if you want to see and look at the longer term, slightly longer term, once this is behind us, yes, business models will change, a lot of realities will change, but you'll still need people. Will people actually forget how they were treated in these times? So there are various ways of managing the crisis by involving people and asking for suggestions from people to say how is it that we can do more and make sure that we do not have to take this extreme step of cutting costs through laying off people. And I think some organizations are doing that. People are coming up with various models, various things. It is still okay for people in senior management, to take cuts and say no increments, etc. But if you look at the middle and the frontline people in an organization, sometimes they are the only ones who are the earning member in the family. So this needs to be seen in a holistic context, and I do not think that it's like the traditional thing about anybody wants to look at HR cost. The only cost they look at is training cost. Training come kar do, so everything else will manage. But
Yeah.
people do not understand that this will actually not help the organization and not help people to grow in the organization, and thereby the organizational growth will also get stunted. So it's a question of looking at short term versus long term approach, and in the long term also knowing that there are a lot of variables which we do not have answers to, as Bhavesh said. We don't know, future is not going to look like the same way that we probably had projected it. So, to my mind, there can be creative ways of looking at this. For example, redundancies or layoffs. Companies are saying, can you look at something called a furlough? Sending people on leave where they still remain on the roles of the company, their retirement and deferred benefits are not affected. But yes, people can be on leave. It's like somebody being on bench and not being in an active role or a project at a given point in time. And to me, the safest bet is if you involve employees, they will come up with creative ways to ensure that we have to help the organization survive through this crisis.
Correct. Rightly said, Aparna. Yeah. Bhavesh, your views on this?
A sailor, she is as safe as the ship is. The first way to value for business, for the first and the foremost and the quintessential way for business to value employees is to be surviving and thriving. The business has to survive and thrive and sustain in this crisis. Now, quite often it is put one against other. Human cost, other than the IT and consultancy, is not so high as a fraction of total cost. And I would not say that as a cost, I would say the human investment. So, number one, and the most quintessential point for the companies and the organization is to thrive and survive in this era. So, if that happens, the rest all can follow. Having said that, so organizations need to be super smart. People support what they help create. Aparna just hinted on it. If you have to do the inevitable as a last recourse, if we have to, somebody has to suffer. If how do you get into the process of that purging, of that cleansing, of that survival new avatar is very important. How is very important. Where the law is a cult of minimum. Good organizations who are futuristic would start at the cult of minimum of the law and then go much beyond. So be authentic, communicate clearly, transparently, involve people in the decisions, follow a top-down approach in terms of sacrifice. The sacrifice index or the sacrifice value would be, of course, more at the top. Be considerate. Having said that, if you have to value your employees, like in one of my past organizations, we had to lay off, and we had to lay off many people. We went out all the way to even have their outplacement services, to get their CVs redone, to get them reskilled. Also, we had a bulk deal with another company that why don't you recruit these 200 odd diplomas, give them 6 months time. We will pay half the salary. Okay. After 6 months, they agreed that they'll take only 1/4 of those. So what we did was we allowed those people an opportunity somewhere. And then if they relearn, unlearn, and they thrive, then they will be taken up. So how do you make your workforce valued is allowing them to be reskilling, to know the new context, to make meaning out of this complex phenomenon that we are going through right now, to skill them, to involve them in the process. People support what they help create. Be authentic and also be candid. If you cannot give a surety, be candid and give a heads up. Listen, things are not looking nice. We don't know how it will pan out, but some of us will take some. We might be on the bunch for law. We might be taking a cut. We might be reskilling. We might be job sharing. So, so these are the various ways we can uh, uh, value our employees. Other things like, there's a huge debate and legislation, the leave. So you may have buddy sharing the leaves. If right now the leaves are being set off against the unworked days, then we have had live examples of people coming. Hey, listen, I have 25 more days of leave. You don't have. Rather than it being you going negative, I'll lend you. So even employee foster buddy and camaraderie among employees, because in these tough times, that is the glue that will have enable them to hold. Managers' role to make meaning out of employees also important. Not only the organizations, enroll the managers to your thought process, and rather seek inputs from the managers in your thought process, and then you cascade your communication. So that these are certain things. 51 percentage of my focus would be making the organization survive. Like I say, if the ship sails, the sailor, she would be safe. 49 percentage would be then about engaging employees in authentic and a caring manner.
Perfect. Perfect. That was really some brilliant piece of advice, Bhavesh. Vijay, can we get your views on this, please?
Yeah, I agree with Bhavesh and Aparna points what they mentioned. Uh, I have in my 34 years of career, 17 years, 15 years, I worked as an employee, okay, in HR, and last 17, 18 years as an employer. So I think this is going to be a new life, as Aparna said. Um, all of us, it's a very, very sudden change which has happened. A lot of WhatsApp jokes are circulating worldwide. People are talking about how things are. But from employee and employer's perspective, it's a new life. And people will have a lot of catharsis. I think this is a time when we need to talk about those catharsis. People need to be given opportunity to talk about it. Happiness is very, very, very important. You know, uh, I think HR and employer they need to have more healthy and psychologically healthy teams. Going forward, people will be working under a lot of stress, so they need to elevate human spirit. uh, Financials are important. I think employers have to make provisions for their financials, but HR need to really elevate human spirit in the organization. It is very, very important. We are talking about PIP and all. In good spirit, it has to be done, and people need more sense of belongingness. This time, HR or top management should not divide people on the basis of performing and non-performing. If they work as a team, I think today there are so many competition surveys are done, people surveys are done where they say that salary is not important. Salary is not as a first factor for motivation for people. But then this is a time, a real time, HR's perspective, businessman's perspective, employer's perspective will play a major role. How they are creating performing teams, motivated teams, psychological healthy teams, and rejoicing is very, very important at this point of time. So first war is when we look at COVID going out of the country, starting from out of the city. Like few cities have started working, but then they have just started working with people on the road. But businesses are not actually happening because support systems are not ready. When probably 1 month, 2 months down the line, companies start working, taking care of employees, and for some time, I'm sure industrialists would be talking to government about financial support and all, but human support and creating platform for people to talk about their catharsis, about their concerns, listening to them is going to be very, very big success factor for Indian industry. Yeah? We do not have very high social security systems today. Like I heard a lot of time people talking in last 10 days about more than a million. 2 million people have lost jobs in US, but they have strong security systems. India doesn't have. So it is very important that HR and entrepreneurs and employers need to take care of it. And I think in good spirit, it is very important. Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you, Vijay. With that, we
So,
come to
Arpita,
yeah.
before you move on, just on this point, I want to support what Bhavesh said. And, he talked about being authentic. I think it's important for leaders and leadership in organizations to have the courage to share the truth, whatever is
Right.
the truth and the real truth. And I think people can handle it. When you tell them the truth and you're authentic about what is the status of the organization, it becomes a shared problem. And then you invite suggestions in terms of what to do about it. So I think it's about managerial or leadership courage to be able to
Yeah.
share and trust people that they can handle the truth.
Correct.
I think oftentimes leaders are scared that what will happen. I think there is more damage that leaders do by hiding facts and not sharing the truth
Right.
because people don't feel a part of it.
Right.
So I just
I think
wanted to
that
make that point.
yeah, that I think that's what we call it, building a transparent organization. That's I think that's what is everybody thinking of. Uh, and then with that, we come to a very good old question. Whether the times are good or not so good, the most common thing that HR professionals hear is, do you think the HR function at this time becomes more imperative and critical? And how can they support the businesses more strategically during these times? Bhavesh, can you take this, please?
Okay, I was in HR for a very long period, and since 1 year, I've moved to a business role.
Right. Okay.
Uh, the debate is historic. I think a lot of genesis of this debate origins and emanates from the lack of confidence of HR fraternity and conviction about their utility. The first step to feel valuable is to first step to have a seat on the table is to have conviction and have faith about your value add. It's intangible, but it's proven again and again. It is the intangible that matters now. HR as a function should metamorphose into a more deliverable and more visible role, which is given. The the function of HR in tomorrow's time might be subsumed under business leadership. Uh, the the HR things need to be done now, whether it is boxed in organization charts under HR or under people on the leadership or under line, it hardly matters. And many organizations for last couple of decades have been doing it. Know your business, value chain, jump to action quickly. HR needs to shrink the time from concept to delivery. I'm telling you, crunch the project delivery time. We need to be agile, and a solution in past tense is no hindsight wisdom doesn't pay today in this situation. So we need to crunch the time to deliver. We need to be showing up actively uh, um, as the tag team of the line management quickly, and that requires a lot of agility, a lot of doability. So HR in the new avatar would be much more active. Uh, Demands would be very high. Also, quite often, please understand, HR does an amazing balancing role. The business orientation is always now here myopic. Okay, quite often because they are number, their orientation is quarters a quarter tak. Okay, weeks a week tak. They want to deliver the numbers. That's what gives the money for HR to spend on development. But if the numbers are not met, the survival doesn't happen. However, HR is a good conscious keeper who allows and he enables the long sight. That how about a medium term look at it, not only quarter to quarter. How about 3 years to 3 years? How do we build, not only run? So business wants to run, the HR wants to build an organization. So that tension is a healthy one. But can HR see that? Important. And more important is, can HR make others see that they see it? Are we able to articulate what we bring on table? The worst thing is nobody is paid for mistakes that are avoided. HR, a right HR, quite often through conscious keeping, enable the business and the line to avoid many mistakes. Now, these are forgotten. Why? Because we avoided a crisis. You've forgotten. The heroes create crisis and then douse the fire and become heroic. No, that's not what we want to play as HR. So how do we also enable and others to see your value add, which is quite often intangible, quite often something that you avoided. So in this context, uh, HR is in tight spot. Training and engagement budgets would be going down. Surely the first ones to be cut in a myopic organization or even not so myopic organization. So in this, all headwinds and how we still steer aerodynamically ahead is going to be tough. All fat would dissolve, muscles will remain. The challenge now is how do we convert a part of fat into muscle?
Correct. That's correct. Vijay, your thoughts on this, please?
I agree with Bhavesh, but Bhavesh, in given condition, uh, HR has to see where is the fat, okay, and they have to cut these fats, so it will start bleeding. But I think that bleeding is also required because unless you cut those fats, you will not really come to know, you will not reach to those muscles. Here, HR's very important role where expectation management, wherein expectations of the management, expectations of the people, expectations of the society, because now in the Indian context, employees self expectation from self, from family, from society, from company. So there are too many things which are getting into it. Okay, and realigning businesses, which top management will do. How good or bad your HR is in realigning it is very important. You talked about Bhavesh, short term, long term. I don't think it will be anywhere long term, 3 years and 5 years business plan. People will talk about more of a monthly and quarterly and annual plan only. Only people who are into large businesses and they talk about resources. There are so many industries we must have seen. I don't want to name it now, but they have changed their business portfolios overnight, and people were wondering that they were tycoons. And how come they changed their business? How come they sold their equities to FDIs? And the whole gimmick, the whole politics is changing. People are changing their business plan. HR is expected to know more about people management, and they have to be HR business partners. It's a very tightrope walk for HR, but I'm not saying it's a cakewalk for HR. It will have a long-term impact on HR people also. HR people will also go through a lot of mental stress, and mental security is more important for all of us at this point of time, whether you are sitting in HR's chair or employee's chair or employer's chair. And creating healthy environment, as Aparna said, very important, because we always talk about transparency in the organization. So at
Okay, I think we have a technical glitch here.
Can you still hear me?
Yeah, you're audible, Aparna.
Can you hear me?
Aparna, yes, Bhavish, that is also fine. Aparna, do you want to take this question up?
Yes, I want to take this question, and I don't know if I will have the final word, but I don't know how much time we have, but I'd like to have the final word if I may. Bhavesh, of course, started with the controversy of the traditional thing, okay, and I could see the streak of HR in Vijay sort of almost popping out there. But I want to adopt a more provocative and a very balanced stand here to say that, in my mind, this is not the time to keep oneself, closeted under labels of saying HR and business. I think we need to shed that. To my mind, HR and business leadership need to be fungible, need to collaborate, need to work together. And he said that HR guys need to know the business. So you can't start knowing the business today. I mean, if you've been in the company, you should have known the business by now for you to understand, how it operates and what are the variables that the business leaders are dealing with. So to me, every business leader is expected to be an HR leader, and HR leader is expected to be a business leader. Looking at functional specialization, I think everybody, all energies, all hands and heads have to come together to say how is it that we are going to help the organization. So, what are the few mantras here? I think very importantly is to be present. Whether it's HR, it's business, you need to be present. So you have to show up. You have to stay connected with people. You have to comfort people. And you have to comfort them saying even you don't have the answers, which makes you more human. Otherwise, people start thinking that, HR is God and they have all the answers. The fact is they don't have the answers. We don't have the answers. So it's okay to let people know that you're equally vulnerable, just like anybody else in the organization. Okay. This power centers and all this power play that goes on has to be dropped to the side, for the time being. That's number one. Secondly, there has to be a lot of communication from HR, from business, hand in hand, whether it's town halls, it's video calls, etc., with people, just to listen to people. So not only show up and talk to people, but also be available to listen, because the crisis is a litmus test for everybody. Nobody knows what's going on. And if we were to just look at the leaders of various countries who are dealing, if we were to just extrapolate this, and if you don't look at an organization but at a larger landscape, okay, that is what the country's leadership is also dealing with. They also don't know, they don't have the answers. Okay, so everybody's trying to put their heads together and come up with possible solutions by listening to what people have to say, right? So town halls, engagement sessions, etc., are absolutely important. The third thing is that there is a need to appreciate. If you when you're communicating with people, if you see someone going an extra mile and doing what is beyond, say, their traditional job description, I think it helps people feel good about the fact that leadership or HR is noticing that they are going beyond the call of duty. Nobody is doing it to get noticed, but I think appreciation as a culture in an organization helps. The fourth very important thing is also celebrating small wins. Okay, so whether it's quarter or weekly or whatever, I think it's important again in this time to incorporate into the culture where you are celebrating and talking about small wins. If something is done right, somebody is doing something right, through various modes of communication in the organization. If HR people were to put their traditional hat, then you can look at various engagement programs. So I know of an organization which is actually running a contest of manicuring your desk. Okay, so they are encouraging people to pick post photographs of how they are working from home. Okay, so how does their work desk look like? Does it look messy? Does it look, strewn with paper, or there's food on the table, or whatever? Okay, this is just to get people a feeling that we're all in this together. This, for example, something like that is happening, or helping people talk, on whatever communication tools that they have. Talk about how is it working from home and coping with children and spouse at this point in time. Everybody needs an outlet. You're not only always discussing business with people, but you're also talking about certain other pressures that people are going through. For a lot of people, getting out of home to office is like an escape. Okay, but in this situation, they are, with the family, with the children, having to manage work and the family. So, what does it mean to them? So, stories out of that. All right. In another organization, and I know when they're having these calls, even the family is encouraged. Say, one family or two families in a day when there's a town hall happening, families are coming and sharing with the larger organization as to what is their experience of the spouse being at home, and this entire experience. It just makes that the entire experience and exchange more human and humane. We are not crisis as a mechanical situation. This is a human crisis, and by involving other stakeholders at this point in time, which is your family, in the process of work, I think it is becoming easier. So, these are some of the things which HR can do themselves, as well as get the leadership also to do. I will not name an organization, but I know a CEO of a particular company has actually called and spoken to every one of the 4,000 people that they have in the organization in the past, whatever period, that the lockdown has happened. Now, is the CEO expected to do that? Did the HR ask the person to do that? But I think it shows that the leader cares, the organization cares about the employee. And even if it's a 10-minute conversation, you can imagine, 4,000 into 10 minutes. What is the amount of time the person would have spent? Okay. But I'm seeing the kind of comments that are coming from people to say that, they really feel valued in the organization. And the fact that the leader is also wanting to know how they are feeling, and hence people are ready to stretch to do anything over and above what their normal call of the duty is. So to me, two things that are learnings for HR people. I think we need to drop labels. We need to drop our designations, or whatever is on our calling cards. We have to think like business people, and we have to think like humans, and help the business leaders also with the same reality. I think so. There's a partnership that is clearly needed in the process, and this is an opportunity to help us reset whatever misconceptions there may have been about HR, which have been uh, being discussed since time immemorial, and will keep getting discussed till the cows come home, even in future. But I think this is the time for us that we can press the reset button and deal with those misconceptions by value adding, by being more useful, and by being truly a business HR person. Okay.
Very,
So
very true.
to have the last word.
Yeah, very well said. Handle the human crisis the human way.
Yes.
So, guys, we are, obviously we have overshoot time, but we have a few questions from our audience. Bhavish, there is a question specifically for you. What is one must decision for HR leadership that they should be considering today?
Compassion.
Okay. Perfect. I think that was a short question and a short answer. We have a next question. Which are the challenges organizations will face related to work from home concept? Vijay?
Yeah. So companies, as I was talking about management expectations. So people who are working from home, are they working as per the protocols given by company, meeting whatever business plans or targets given to the them? And I think nothing beyond that, because as long as they follow protocols and they meet company given targets, um, there should not be third thing to be discussed also.
Okay, thank you.
So I want to add to that. I think
Yeah.
there's also also the challenge of, nobody would have thought about this, but prevention of sexual harassment, the POSH thing, has come into play in a very big way, given that people are working from home. So, what is allowed and what is not allowed in terms of protocol while working from home? And I'm actually dealing with a few cases like that. You will think that at such time when people are not going to office, there will be no such instances. But what is acceptable and what is not acceptable? All right. So when there are video calls, etc., how are people dressed? What kind of chat exchanges are happening? And if there is something offensive that's being said, and how is it being taken? So what is the intent and the impact? It may seem very simple, but what I'm saying is the more simpler it appears, the more complex it becomes, because nobody has tried this out before. Also, working from home was not a norm in a lot of organizations in the past. Okay, it was something that people have been forced to do. So they did not have a policy from work to home. So they were actually, scrambling to figure out how to work from home. And then there's also this thing about leadership supervision. So how many number of calls and so on and so forth. So I frankly would not have anticipated it, but this harassment issue is also that has come up unanticipated. Vijay, you seem surprised.
Yeah, actually, because Aparna, in Indian industry, since long time people are working from home. Because I remember 20 years back exactly, when I was working with Honeywell, we had ladies working from home, and today also I have a couple of my employees working from home. Lot of my client organizations where they are working from home. So such kind of problems have. This is the first time I'm hearing, Aparna, frankly speaking, posh issues.
I'm dealing with I'm dealing with 6 such cases right now.
Yeah, but then if you look at number of people working from home, it is in crores, millions, and I'm sure
And
it is not escalated, or it is not escalated. But yeah, I really don't know what kind of those things are. But I think maturity to deal with things, because all people who are working from home, it's important for all of them to understand and deal with it more courageously and straightforward. Like both you and Bhavish were talking about openness, culture, transparency. So we need to talk about it. But I'm surprised because I never heard about it so loudly, and even complaint coming to post committee or you, whichever form it is.
I think we should bring the fish on the table. It's very important. Such issues should be discussed. Inappropriate visual, virtual, intentional or unintentional gestures need to be curbed or need to be directed. Main thing is I'm very optimistic about how humankind, from the front line, of course, from the doctors in the front line, yes, from government, quasi-government bodies, NGOs, leaders, managers, how the entire humankind has risen to the occasion, how beautifully new and innovative and creative and effective protocols are being brought up to survive. And they say na, in the crisis the best of you come out. So I guess the corporate ink has really risen to the for thanks to social media now. Learning is cross fertilized very quickly, and people who were erstwhile not so open to suggestions are today in the fertile mind set to borrow things. So it's awesome. There is a silver lining in this crisis. People are rising to occasion and will thrive. And a lot of things that were not spoken and were not done or kept at bay might be coming at fore and internalized, which is
Yeah,
good.
Right,
right.
absolutely. We'll take this one last question specifically for Bhavesh again. How is crisis response different in Africa versus India?
All right. The We cannot typecast Africa as simpler as a singular homogeneous set. Within Africa, we have a lot of variety and a lot of maturity. I have seen some amazing, especially Rwanda, Kigali. It is the lockdown was instituted in from 21st of March, a very effective step for a 1.2 crore population. Daily inputs, government bear all the cost, strict protocols. We have a mask mandate even inside commonly shared compounds, and people follow it. A lot of compliance. So I want to take this opportunity about talking about Rwanda and its amazing rise in last 25, 26 years. So the response is, of course, uh, we have all spectrum of good, bad, ugly, or good, bad, not so good responses across the countries. In my country, uh, Rwanda, it's very effective, and they've contained and flattened the curve. They're very vigilant. In our organization, Safal Group works across 12 countries, and our visibility of leaders, the corporate staff functions connect to the BU is amazing. Compassion drives, authenticity drives, and an intent to say that, hey, listen, we don't know, but we are here to do when it comes, whatever it takes. Uh, like, for example, in Rwanda, we had a voluntary shutdown one day before the official shutdown was announced, just to take care of our employees' undue exposure at the cost of business. So we don't mind losing business, but we need to shut down. So on 19th or 20th of March, I forgot the date, we had a voluntary, it was a Saturday, we voluntary shut down. And that night, government announced, and now it would be 40, 52 days. This thing, we have issues accessing our ERP remotely. This is Africa, but we functioning through WhatsApps, and we trying to get the things done. So I believe the responses across Wuhan to Wisconsin to Kashmir to Kanyakumari or Africa, everywhere, people are grappling. Yet the best thing is people are doing all that was unthinkable to do a few weeks back. Can you imagine 1.3 billion people under lockdown and still functioning? Can we? So the world is risen to this. I'm so optimistic. I hope I
Great.
answered your question. Yeah.
I guess yes, the audience got its answer. And thank you guys so much for your very valuable time and even more valuable inputs, advices, and views. I also thank Mehul for bringing us all into this common platform and having us here today. And thank you again.
Can we have
Thanks.
can we
Thanks,
have
Arpita.
Mehul's site?
Okay.
Of you bite? Where is he? Not seen him for a long time.
I'll probably tell him to give you a call.
I don't even know how he looks.
No, I know that.
He does a video call with everybody.
Okay, Mehul, well done, Mehul and Arpita. Vijay and Aparna, it was great. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank
Great
you.
interacting, and thanks to the audience as well.
Yeah, thanks to the audience.
Thank you to
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Arpita. Thank you, Mehul. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Okay, have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye.